I'd like to call the regular City Council meeting to order for Tuesday, October 7th, 2025. Tonight, this evening, we have some scouts from Troop 270. I'd like to invite them up to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, gentlemen. First up, is there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
No, sir.
Seeing none, I'll move the agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have an agenda. First item up, presentations, proclamations, and acknowledgements. The first is our Dakota County presentation, led by our commissioner, one of our commissioners for the county, or for our city, Bill Drosty.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, staff. I apologize on short notice. Logan asked since we were in here at the work session. I do not have a PowerPoint for you. So I'll keep it brief and just ad lib. So first of all, last evening, in fact, we just had a meeting talking about construction projects, but last evening the county had an open house regarding the intersections, 5 of them between Highway 3 and Akron Avenue on 42. It was well attended. I can tell you most of the comments, talking to the engineers, people really supported what they saw on the large maps. And generally, I've been to a lot of these throughout the county when they have the first public meeting. Quite often in neighborhoods, there's a lot of discussion, disagreement, maybe whatever. But here, overall positive, well attended. This is scheduled 2 lights, Auburn and Biscayne, engineering, and next year, right away, construction 27, so that the light goes in prior to the school opening. The couple other items, County Road 46, or 160th Street, we talked about that also just before this meeting. From Highway 3 to 52, the need to upgrade it from a 2-lane to 4-lane. That is out 28, 29, an expensive project, but to secure the funding to move forward with engineering. One thing that wasn't mentioned at 52 and 46, which is in Coates, you'll probably see stoplights going in there within the next month or 2 because of accidents and increased traffic at that interchange until the whole corridor is upgraded. Couple other things, residents watching this, Cotamera and Akron, next year there will be a roundabout going in there, partnership with the city and the county, led by the city, similar to the high school. Early next spring, that road will be closed and a roundabout going in. Also, just people, if they're watching this, traffic at Highway 3 and 42 with the railroad, it's an issue. The county's in the process issuing an RFP for an engineer to study that as far as what are solutions for that. One other item that was kicked off 2 months ago, and the state was out here at your food truck festival. The state is looking at the whole Highway 3 corridor, all the way from 494 to the north to 160th to the south. They had public meetings in the last 2 months in Invergrove, Egan, and Rosemount. Collecting input, you'll probably see a report late spring, middle of next year, as far as what will be done with that road. And the issue with Highway 3, all the way up and down the corridor, there's individual choke points, whether it's in Egan, Cliff Road, how it goes in Rosemount, Biscayne, various elements, and they're looking at them all individually. One other thing, so Connemara construction next year. Also at 52 and 42, the county will be putting in lights on the turn lanes off on the FedEx side. So construction next year at 52, 42, and Akron Avenue. And I think at this point, that's about all I really need to bring up. There's a couple other road projects. 42 will be repaved in a couple years. The second item I'll talk to you about, actually 3 items, is county survey we completed, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about tax rate also. So 2 months ago or 3 months ago, we every 3 years do a survey of county residents like you do. We use Polco, the same company you use. And I can tell you overall, quality of life and services citizens receive in the county, 93% good to excellent, high ratings. 3 years ago, the key issue concerns with residents was public safety and just safety overall throughout our cities and counties. That has trended down. The key 2 issues currently are taxes and the cost of housing. And I'll mention housing a little bit. But overall services, I can tell you our trails and libraries are the 2 highest rated elements in the county. They're always up there, just that we cannot put in enough, I can say, greenway trails. And within the county, we currently have approximately 56 miles, and the intent or the goal is 200. So we're marching along down that road. But the other thing that's highly rated is county services. And this is one element, how we provide services. We're the safety net to all your residents and the 450,000 people within Dakota County. And we just had an update today at our board meeting. So when I say the safety net, so SNAP, Child Protective Services, Medicaid, that all goes through the county for application for federal programs. And just some of the numbers, we have 54,000 cases active within the county. We have 551 cash assistance to households on monthly basis. 46,280 medical assistant cases. So that's all the Medicaid, anyone, hey, my grandma's in a nursing home, needs assistance, the qualifications. SNAP, we have 10,400 cases, but in some, it's 54,000. We take 10,000 lobby visits a year and 22,500 calls a month as a support. 280 people at the county level just provide all this every day. That was the largest or the most eye-opening thing to me, and that's 20 programs that are out there. I just mentioned a few. Today we had an update on the Hennepin County mortuary. Last year we had 115 burials. So if somebody dies, does not have a family member, it falls to the county. And that's a number approximately, it's flat, but we're the last resort for health and human service. So again, to you, that's one of the 20 programs out there. To your residents, almost half our budget is that safety net element. And by the way, if anyone has a question on it, I could just go on, or otherwise I'll move on to budget. Like you, we had to set our minimum levy. This year is 9.5, next year 9.9. And that is eliminating 44 positions. Now, we're not removing any people this year. We did not fill positions because we knew it would be a tight budget next year. We had 70 positions held open, but 44 of them are removed from the budget looking at next year. Some of the highest drivers to the budget next year, cost of living, inflation, just like you, was about 5%, but just over 2% of the budget next year increase is state programs, and I'll say SNAP and Medicaid, where they're shoving the cost without any money. We do the administrative side of these programs, and we're left holding that, and we have to go straight the property tax to cover the administrative side. So 26, mostly it's state increases. When you look at 27, it'll be the federal government cuts to SNAP and Medicaid that we're going to have to absorb more of those programs on the administrative side. So looking out long-term, next 3-4 years, we're not looking at any, I'll say, small numbers like a 2 or 3%. It'll be in this 9, 10, even 11% we're looking at next year. So the second item, so taxes are a key issue, residents, and they are going up. Just on a medium price home in the county, it's $385,000, or it'll be a $68.11 increase. In Rosemount, your median value home is $422,000, so it'll be a $101.95 increase on average home. Different price points, but just how new housing has driven up your cost. On the housing side, just to give you a couple numbers, we at Dakota County, we have the Community Development Agency, so we are doing a lot of things on housing. We operate 2,856 housing units throughout the county, 1,651 senior housing units, and of those is the senior housing. But as we presented the study to you earlier this year, there's a need of housing at all levels, whether it's townhomes, single-family apartments. When you look at your growth, basically in all of our cities throughout the county, but especially on the workforce and senior housing, the people at the lower end, older aging demographics, we know there's a need for that senior housing, subsidized housing. We just opened Nichols Point in Eagan with a veterans preference earlier this year. We're in the process opening Denmark Trail workforce housing in Farmington, just about complete with that this month, next month. Next year, Inver Grove Heights, we're in the process of building senior housing. And then 2 weeks ago, we just cut a ribbon. We're starting to tear down the Delta Airlines data center in Eagan. That's the largest project CDA's ever taken on. We'll clean the site, probably put a senior housing or workforce housing on that project and then sell it off to recoup costs. But last item I'll just mention to you, today we adopted the 5-year CIP, which includes the trails, parks, greenways, and our facilities. I sent Logan a copy of our PowerPoint. It'll go out to all cities and townships. It's $909 million total, looking out capital investment next 5 years. The deadline for you is comment November 14th, and we'll have a public hearing early December and adopt it, I think it's December 16th. So a lot of projects, a lot of road projects that we talked about here earlier at your work session. And when you look at countywide, 450,000 people, It's significant dollars. So with that, thank you. I promise next time we'll have a PowerPoint, and like you, quite busy.
Yep, thank you, Commissioner. I'll just give a chance to any council members that have any questions before you leave. Nothing to go. Thank you very much. Appreciate the information.
Thank you. Thanks.
So that'll complete A, and we accept that presentation. We'll move on to 3B, Fire Department Open House. Turn that over to Chief Springer.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. As you know, October is known as Fire Prevention Month. It's really a way to remember and commemorate the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. But more importantly, it gives the fire service an opportunity to really focus on fire safety education in our community. So standing next to me, I have Lieutenant Jeff Feeder. He's one of our Rosemont's finest, who coordinates all of our public safety and fire prevention programming. So I thought I'd let him come up and talk about what we have going on this week.
Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you. Appreciate being here. Yes, I wanted to say we are proud to kick off Fire Prevention Week, a time to focus on fire safety, education, and prevention. Throughout this week, our firefighters will be visiting all the local schools and daycares to help teach kids how to stay safe and what to do in case of an emergency. This is an opportunity that fire safety is something that affects every household, every family, and every individual. The best way to fight fire is to stop it before it even starts. We're especially excited to invite you to our open house, fire open house, Sunday, October 12th, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. At Station 2. It's going to be an action-packed filled day with lots of fun, learning, and community connection. What we'll have there is live demonstrations, car extrication at 11:30, doors open at 11. We'll have a helicopter landing at noon, ladder demonstrations aerial demonstrations at 12:30, along with SOT coming in to give some of their demonstrations, such as rappelling. So lots of exciting opportunities there. We'll have a walkthrough safety house for kids to be able to go through, kind of learn the safety behind how to escape if there's a fire, hose spraying, kids obstacle course, fire truck tours, and also free food. So we'll have some free food there. It's a great opportunity for fire families to come out, meet their local firefighters, police, and paramedics, learn life-saving tips in a fun and interactive way. We want to see kids running through the obstacle course, parents asking questions, neighbors connecting, and shared commitment to safety. So please spread the word, bring your family and friends, and we look forward to seeing everybody on October 12th.
And in there, I know you zipped through it pretty quick, but you mentioned the walkthrough house. Can you want to explain a little bit about that? Because it's, I think, a new feature this year?
It is one of our new features, yes. So we've normally had a safety house where kids had the opportunity to go up the stairs to an upper level and then down a ladder. This is more of an inflatable option that we have. Easier, portable, but it also is actually much larger, and it's got a lot of great talking points to it. So in the inflatable, it gives the opportunity to inflate into kitchen, opportunity to have smoke look-like feature where kids can crawl under there, show what it's like to be low and stay low below the smoke, talk about those different key points when it comes to fire safety, so what to stay away from, 3 feet away from a fire stove. So yeah, lots of space for groups to kind of travel through this safety house that we have. So yes, definitely a new feature, and we're very excited to show it off.
Yeah, we want to thank one of our local businesses, Spectral Alloys, who made a donation earlier this year to help pay for that, so looking forward to that. I'll open up to council. Any questions?
Yeah, I was just gonna, I think there's a perfect timing with, Fire Prevention Month and everything that's going on, just to highlight this hero highlight that just happened this last weekend when there was a structural fire reported on a 4-unit townhome. First responders were actually 4 officers, Officer Trevor Wagner, Sarah Hubacher, John Kleckner, and Chloe Von Bank were first on the scene and actually were there and from a second story rescued 1 person and a dog. But then the collaboration that they had with your team, the professionalism, seamless teamwork between fire and police. I just love Chief Springer to add to this a little bit if he could, because I think it's perfect timing for what we're celebrating and training here, the public.
Thank you for that. And yes, just to echo those comments, I just want to at least acknowledge really was a heroic effort on behalf of all 4 of those police officers that morning. Events like this are hopefully never, but if anything, once or maybe twice in a career that you come across a scene like this where you have a fire, you have somebody that's trapped that needs to be rescued out. So the quick thinking, putting their own lives at risk to save someone in their community. Yeah, it was just an outstanding effort by all four of them.
Can you talk about how your team actually then saved the structure? So
Yes.
because there's four townhomes in this unit. Sorry, go ahead.
Yep, no, that's all right. So just to expand on that, yes, one of the other key pieces of the response from our police department, they were able to get into the other 3 units of that townhouse quick enough to be able to clear it, so that we knew we didn't have anybody else in the structure, which allowed our department, allowed our firefighters to really focus on the fire control and fire extinguishment. So we were able to get that line pulled, get inside that structure quickly to get a quick knockdown on that fire before it expanded. So we were able to contain it to the unit of origin instead of it expanding into other units, which would have significantly changed the outcome.
Okay.
So yeah, overall, just it was a great collaboration between our 2 departments. It's one of the things that I said when I started here, and I love so much about being in Rosemont. It's one Rosemont, it's one team. We work very well together. And yeah, I could be more proud of their efforts and for everything they did to support us that evening, or
Yeah.
that early morning.
Thank you. I just wanted to call that out because, I mean, the last time we saw, your fire department, they're doing the training out by Omni and all this stuff. Now you're able to apply it. And not only that, but both the fire and police departments working so well together. That was something to call out.
Good.
Thank you.
Anything else from the rest of council?
Nope.
All right, thank you very much for the presentation. Look for everyone to come out. Again, that's October 12th on Sunday, 11 to 2 p.m. at Fire Station 2. Thank you.
Thank you.
That'll complete item number 3B. We'll move on to 3C, a special event update. Mr. Schultz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. This Saturday, October 11th, from 12 to noon, we'll be holding our second annual Oktoberfest. We will be joined by Omni Brewing and North 20 as our co-sponsors in putting on this event. We will have 3 food trucks. We'll have Nazi's Grill from Rosemount. We'll have Gerhardt's Brats and Ruland's Strudel House on site serving food. And then we will also have a polka band, the Dale Pexa Band from the South Metro will be playing from noon until 3. And then we also have a DJ coming up from Madison, DJ Shotsky, and she will be playing from 3:30 to 7. This event takes place in Central Park in the rink area where I think many of you are familiar with coming for Food Truck Fest and Leprechaun Days, Halloween, things like that. And so obviously there's going to be a lot going on there. We are going to be having some costume contests, and then the 2 breweries are going to be giving away gift certificates to the winners of those events. And then we also have free axe throwing. So all day from noon to 7, we'll have an axe throwing trailer set up, and it'll be free for whoever wants to take part in that. So again, noon to 7 this Saturday, Central Park. We invite people to come out. Take part in this fun event and hang out with your friends and neighbors in Rosemount.
This is like our second annual?
Second annual, correct.
So come out wearing your dirtles and
Lederhosen, yep.
And it sounds like you've got some really good Oktoberfest sounding names there.
We do, yep.
All righty. Anything from council? All right, thank you.
All right.
That completes item 3C, and we'll move on to 3D, the manufacturing of the month in November. And I'll look to Director Keenberger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. October is Manufacturing Month in Minnesota. So as a part of that, we're requesting that the city council proclaim that as Manufacturing Month here in Rosemount as a part of the attached proclamation. A couple notes on that. In a little bit of context here in Rosemount, we do have a significant manufacturing base, and just to call out a few of our local manufacturers in our city, including Spectra Alloys, Frana, Protolabs, Uttertech, ProAmpac. The amount of and types of jobs that they bring to the community of ours, it not only just provides a certain type of job, but also adds to the resilience of our community and diversifies our tax base. One specific highlight that we got to experience last week was the completion of a $71 million expansion over at Spectro. They had an open house and offered tours. It was just really interesting to see their new modern facility and the operations that they do there. So just a special shout out to those guys. And with that, I'll turn it back to you for the proclamation.
All right. With that, council started.
Whereas Minnesota's manufacturers shape our world both here, at home, and around the globe. And whereas manufacturing's $58.8 billion contribution to the state's economy in 2024 represents 12% of the state's gross domestic product, and
whereas manufacturing is a reliable career pathway in Minnesota with more than 93,000 job openings for manufacturing production positions through 2032, and whereas Minnesota manufacturers are pioneering advances across subsectors to ensure the industry will remain competitive for generations to come, and
whereas more than 8,500 manufacturers across the state create products that Minnesotans and people worldwide rely on every day, and whereas Minnesota-made goods from medical devices to farm equipment carry our state's ingenuity around the globe, bringing a $24.6 billion into the state economy through manufactured exports alone, and
whereas behind every Minnesota-made product are highly skilled workers whose creativity, expertise, and dedication strengthen Minnesota's communities and quality of life, and whereas manufacturing careers in Minnesota pay an average annual wage of just under $83,280, which is $9,000 or 12% higher than the state's overall average wage in 2024, and
Whereas manufacturing's jobs provide not only family-sustaining wages, but also opportunities for growth, innovation, and pride in building things that matter. Now therefore, I, Jeffrey D. Weisensell, Mayor of Rosemount, Minnesota, do hereby proclaim October 2025 shall be observed as Manufacturing Month in Rosemount, dated this 7th day of October 2025. And so it is said, so it is written. We have proclaimed October as Manufacturing Month. And that completes item 3D. And with that, we'll move on to 4, response to public comment. I don't believe we have any responses due this evening. And that'll take us to public comment, item number 5. Anyone wishing to come before council this evening may do so. Please state your name, your address, limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. State your comment or question for council. The floor is open. All right, anyone? Seeing no one at this time, we'll move to close the public hearing. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public comment is completed for this evening. We'll move on to consent agenda 6. Items A through F, which includes our bill listings, minutes for the September 16th, 2025 regular meeting minutes, accepting improvements and authorize the final payment on project CSA H42, resolution supporting Minnesota's suburban transit provider, our local MVTA, who's been serving our community since 1990, ISD 196 ICE rental agreement. This is for the boys and girls high school team usage, and then our concessions agreement for at the ICE arena. Would council, anyone like to pull any item for further discussion or comment? Seeing none, would someone like to move the consent agenda in the affirmative, items A through F?
So moved.
Is there a second?
second.
I have a motion by Tyson, second by Essler. Roll, please.
Essler.
Aye.
Limple.
Aye.
Weisensell.
Aye.
Tyson.
Aye.
Reski.
aye.
And that completes item 6, consent agenda. We'll move on to public hearings, which we have none this evening, unfinished business, which we have none this evening, and to item 9, new business, which we will talk about amendments to the zoning ordinance of the Rosemount City Code. Turn that over to Mr. Nemchuk.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the commission. The 5 proposed amendments to the city's zoning ordinance are the result of discussions that have taken place between the Planning Commission and staff over the meetings held during the summer months. The Planning Commission held a public hearing at its meeting on September 23rd to review the formal proposed amendments to the zoning code and is recommending the council approve the amendments, adopting an ordinance to approve those amendments. Just in brief, there are 5 amendments being proposed. I'll run through each of them individually, but they are relatively minor in nature, but do have some substantial changes that staff believes will improve our code overall. So the first proposed zoning code amendment relates to non-residential uses, specifically related to educational services. Staff did receive an inquiry from the developer of some warehouse office space. They had a potential user, a dance studio, looking to locate here within Rosemount. Their development is within the B2 zoning district, which does not allow for educational services. This only came up because dance studios are, or I should say dance and music instruction are specifically listed as an educational service in that definition. But being that educational services are not permitted, staff is following feedback and discussion with the Planning Commission, recommending making educational services a permitted use in there. It'll allow for tutors, things like that. You can see the definitions before you. Staff would also note that indoor commercial recreational facilities are allowed, which include things that are listed there before you, skating rinks, reception halls, whatnot. It did not really make sense why educational services would not be allowed. So staff did look at a few different cities' codes, found that all actually do allow for dance studios or an equivalent use or in the business park zoning district. Some name dance studios specifically, while others just call them teaching or training facilities. So there were 2 possible outcomes that the Planning Commission discussed. One would be to just simply add educational services as a permitted use in the B2 district, or update the definition of commercial indoor recreation facility to include dance studios. The Commission's discussion and feedback have staff recommending just adding educational services as a permitted use. The second proposed amendment is related to principal uses in commercial uses, specifically commercial event centers. There are a number of standards that must be met when property owner or venue operator would like to run or operate a commercial event center. Specifically, there are 19 standards. There are 2 standards that staff has received inquiries about from people who are looking to move into the city or operate such a use. There isn't a specific use or property tied to this proposed amendment, but those 2 standards are that the property owner and the operator must be the same individual and the site shall be its primary residence. This use, commercial event centers, initially was brought into the zoning code to allow for the owners of farmsteads who might have a barn or some agricultural buildings on their property and do some sort of wedding farm, wedding venue type thing. So at that time, the requirement to have them own the property and have that be its primary residence was included. The second one, the maximum number of guests is currently limited to 200, although the code does allow for a larger number of guests based on the size of the site, structures, parking availability, and other relevant factors. So the Planning Commission did discuss this in detail. The Planning Commission did not feel that there would be a major need or benefit or reason to require the property owner to live on site. Simply being present on the premises for the duration of each event would be sufficient. And then secondly, because there already is a provision in the code, the standard does already allow for the number of guests to be based on the size of the site and structures, that why not just let the number of guests be based on the size of the structure, the amount of parking, and other relevant factors like any other use. So the proposed amendments are there before you. The third one is related to accessory uses, specifically outdoor dining. There was a discrepancy in the code between what the city requires when issuing a liquor license and what the zoning ordinance requires for outdoor dining if a liquor license is granted for that site. The council may recall that this was recently updated. There was a patio, a business in town that wanted to put in a patio in which the patio area was not contiguous and there would be access into it not through the principal building. So that's no longer a requirement to issue a liquor license, but it is still a requirement for the zoning code. So the proposed amendment would just bring those two into alignment. The patio or deck area must be compact and contiguous and shall be quarantined off by an appropriate fence, wall, or staff monitor. So that is that proposed change. The next one is related to fencing standards. We've received a couple of requests lately, although I will say that they are somewhat a regular request to build a 6-foot set in a 6-foot fence in a side yard area. The image shown here on the screen gives you an idea of what the maximum fence height is in various portions of a yard. Most properties in the city have a maximum of a 6-foot fence height in the side and rear yards. In front yards, the maximum height is 42 inches. But in the case of a side yard on a corner lot that abuts the front yard of an adjacent property, this maximum height is 48 inches. And so the requests we've received, or staff has received, is to build a 6-foot like a privacy fence around their entire rear property line. There aren't a ton of properties where this actually is relevant for. Most of the time, there's not a rear or a front yard facing a side yard of an adjacent property. Staff did look at codes from different cities and found that none really regulate that street side yard fence height. And we know that there are fences that are 6 feet tall in that street side yard that abut the front yard of an adjacent property. Staff has not received any complaints about those types of properties. So looking at what other cities have done and based on conversation that the Planning Commission had, staff is recommending to just eliminate that 48-inch height and the street side yard setback, so it's a consistent 6 feet from the side and rear yards. Also note in this image too, it's a little deceiving. The code does not allow for a fence right up to the curb in the way that this kind of looks here. The maximum distance would be to the property line, which is roughly 13 feet from the curb. There's a right-of-way area, so it would not be a fence right up to the curb, as this sort of depicts. Parking lot landscaping. The code requires a certain amount of landscaping to be placed within parking lots, trees planted in islands and peninsulas. The intent of this is to help alleviate some of the heat island effect, provide shade in those parking areas. Currently, the code requires those parking lot trees in addition to the 1 per 3,000 square foot requirement for a tree. So if a developer comes in with a lot, say it's a 9,000 square foot lot, they would have to plant 3 trees on the site, and they would also have to plant a certain amount of trees within the parking lot. I'm only using these numbers as an example. 9,000 isn't a great number, but it does, you can divide it by 3. But the trees in the parking lot would be required in addition to the 1 per 3,000 square feet. The discussion with the Planning Commission was if the goal is to have 1 tree per 3,000 square feet on the site, that should just be the goal. The required parking lot landscaping would simply say that of all the trees that you are planting on this site, a certain number of them have to be provided in the parking lot area. It still meets the intent of the ordinance, but I would say that in our site plan reviews, that is kind of the part that always creates confusion amongst developers and landscape architects, and that's where we usually try to have the conversations with them early on so that they understand that. So the proposed change would simply be to have the only shrubs, flowers, and ground cover be in addition to the minimum number of plantings required. The trees would just simply be calculated based on the site area. And then I believe that was the last one. There was some discussion about some screening requirements. The code requires 90% opacity. Staff is planning on continuing that conversation with the Planning Commission. There wasn't a desire to incorporate that change into these recommended amendments. There were included with the commission, the council's packet, minutes or excerpts from the meeting minutes from those discussions with the Planning Commission. As I said, those meetings were held, or those discussions were held during the regular meetings in July and August, or June and August. So I can stand to answer any questions. I know these are kind of dry issues, but they are things that, as planners, we deal with every single day.
Like the desert sands. Anyway, open it up to city council. Any questions? That was dry. That was dry. That was a dry.
If I may make comment, I did watch, multiple planning commission meetings around this, and one thing I appreciate, especially, items 1 through 3 here, is that these seem not only like common sense adjustments, like I was kind of surprised when these were conversations and we had to make the changes, but also that these are very supportive of some small business operators and entrepreneurs coming into Rosemount and looking into investing in Rosemount. So happy to see these changes kind of coming forward to support that as well.
Other questions?
So I just have a question, a clarification on the fencing standards, and I may be the only one that's confused. I hope not, but maybe I am. So what we're doing on the picture that currently has that little section of orange, that's being changed so that in that example where that side yard is adjacent to the front yard of the neighbor, so that is going to be replaced with what? Blue?
Yellow.
So now, yellow? So that location can have a 6-foot fence right next to the blue next door that can only have 42. So you could literally have 2 fences side by side on that street that would be 60 inches and 42 inches?
Yeah, that's how it would play out, yes. It's unusual that we have front yard fences in general. We just don't see them all that often. The requests we receive are from people who say, well, I don't want a 48-inch fence and a 60-inch fence surrounding my yard. I have big dogs, 48 inches isn't going to be anything, so therefore I can only fence in, 2/3 of my yard because I need a 6-foot fence. So that is the change that would be made. But also, as I did say, that there are not all that many properties in which a front yard is abutting the side yard of a corner lot.
Do we have any examples? I can't even think, I think of like the stereotypical white picket fence in the front of a house. Like, do we even have any? I can't think of any driving through town that has any fences in the front.
They're mostly decorative, and they're usually split rail. There are some picket fences in the front, but there are a lot of the corners to kind of delineate the yards. But they're not, we don't see a lot of chain link fences in the yards, but they're mostly decorated in the front, decorative in the front yards.
I just find it strange that you could, if somebody did do that in that location, and then right next door, their neighbor could put up a 1.5 foot higher fence.
Right.
Anthony, is the front yard fence is sometimes a public safety issue too, right? For view sheds into the property as first responders are responding to homes. And so a front yard fence typically, from my recollection, is preferred to be a bit shorter from a view shed from a safety standpoint into a front yard. And so I get the point you're pointing with the orange versus blue.
Yeah, and I don't have an issue at all keeping the 42 inches.
Because the rest of their property
My
could
issue
get
is
tall.
that having that adjacent property, in theory, could have a fence that's a 1.5 foot taller, and that just gonna look odd. But it's
Yeah.
a side yard, so I get it.
It's their side yard technically.
Yeah, there are spots where it does work out that way. As I said, it's not all that often that we have a front yard fence, nor is it all that often that there's a side yard on a corner lot that abuts that. A lot of the corner lots are back to back, or it just doesn't work out that way.
I mean, I guess what's driving this change? Because again, the way it is right now, leaving it at 48 inches, it's only a 6-inch spread, as opposed to now it's an 18-inch spread, if this situation would ever happen.
So
what's driving?
Yeah, we get requests for fence permits, and we have to say no. But then we also know that people will get their fence replaced without a permit, putting it in the same spot, just get a new fence put up. They end up just going a little higher, so then you do just end up having a six foot fence in that area. So then someone buys that house, comes in, they want to replace the fence yet again, and we say, oh, well, you can't have a 6-foot fence in that area, and we have aerial images, we can see when it happened, and it's within the past 10 years or so.
Okay.
So it's kind of just meeting the demand and the requests that we're hearing from the public when they're wanting to put fences in. And then based on our review of other cities' codes, we're regulating it differently than other cities are. So.
I guess just a question for the rest of council then, does anybody else have an issue? Because we're passing we're voting on the resolution for all of them. We're not doing them individually. So
Right.
Is there anybody else, I guess, that has an issue with it, or is everybody else comfortable with
If you want it pulled, you could pull it for further,
pull the whole thing, or just
just pull
that
that
one
fence
item?
standard if you felt that it was necessary.
Well, that's, I mean, if you guys,
I do have a couple of questions on there. You mentioned that the map doesn't really highlight where you would actually put the fence. And I'm curious, is that where the dotted line is on there?
Well, yeah, and I apologize, I should have thrown an aerial or something on here to give you a little bit better context. But the dotted line would probably be a better reflection of where a fence would go.
So,
is the
are we
setback,
allowed to put the fence on the property? Yeah, on the property line?
Yeah, so there's actually,
are, right?
if you're looking at this, just imagine if this was the right-of-way.
Yeah.
In the front.
Then that would be as far back as you go. On the property lines, the actual property lines, you can go up to.
so in theory, the blue and the orange, you could have those two fences could literally, I mean,
They'd be
those,
spaced apart.
but they could be right together.
They could be right together along the side and rear property line.
Along the rear, but on the side, you could have, you're
person's
saying that they'd be different,
Yeah.
But like,
and it would be
people so
back a little
rarely
bit.
put front fences.
Right.
You don't see
Yeah.
many front yard fences.
No.
Right.
I just,
I mean, I guess I understand why it was, I guess I understand why item 1C was in place before. And I don't know what's driving the change. Like you said, if people are saying they want a 6-foot fence on their side yard, just happens to be on the street side.
Yeah, and I think it's even more so when there are neighborhoods that aren't as grid patterned. where it's a little squishy on what is the side yard and what is the front yard, especially if it's a pie-shaped lot or an irregular shaped lot. Most of the city is not like this type of a neighborhood. You know, they're newer cul-de-sacs, things like that, curved streets. So the impacts are pretty low to the change, I would say, because one, we don't see front yard fences. I would say most people just stick those little, you know, the wrought iron ones that you can buy at Menards in the ground if they're gonna put one in the front yard without even having a fence permit, because
Yeah,
you can just stick it in the
I
ground.
guess I would say, I mean, if everybody else is comfortable with it, I mean, there's 5 items on here, so 80% of it I'm good with. So,
As a follow-up, assuming this gets approved, you'll update the drawing a little bit
Yes.
more? Okay. I'd like to visit, what was the one here, on 1163, the commercial. So in there, the bases go up to the red, so it's based on size, site, structure, parking availability, and other relevant factors. Is there a matrix that staff uses to determine the maximum number of guests based on those items?
So, size of the site and the structures would be a building code, fire marshal standard. And then as far as parking availability, it's based on 1 parking stall per 3 guests, I want to say.
Okay, I guess if a resident was looking at this, how would they determine that other than having to come in and talk with staff, I guess?
That's kind of how everything works, as far as parking requirements. They're in our code. It usually starts with a conversation with staff.
Mr. Mayor, maybe if I can take a shot at answering that question. So all other uses within the zoning code don't prescribe, or most of them don't prescribe a number of occupants. It prescribes a number of, size, setback, distance, all based on the site that project, so like a daycare, for example. In our code, it doesn't say daycares can only have 30 students, and then it has a bunch of other factors. This is trying to bring this more in alignment with how we manage and maintain our other uses within most of our zoning districts, that the site dictates the intensity of the use on that site and the number of occupants on there, instead of, I'll say, somewhat artificially prescribing a number of occupants on a site and then making them design a site around that.
Well, I guess I was looking a little bit more towards, if you have a site and it's an acre, how many would you have on there? That would be part of the matrix. You could have up to a maximum of something. But if there's a structure on it that changes it, and now you're within the structure, and parking's going to change that. So somebody using that, I guess, is, it seems a little convoluted, a little bit. That's why I was looking for like a matrix type thing.
I think I understand what you're asking, and maybe I'll expand my answer by saying that any undeveloped piece of property, nobody knows exactly how many students, guests, whatever can fit on there until they do a site plan using any city's codes to apply it to it, and then that will determine how they can utilize that parcel.
But I think in some of the discussion, maybe that I missed that on here, well, yeah, it was around this, like if I owned a farm and I wanted to look at my barn, where would I go to find out that if a barn was X amount of square feet, I have at least an idea of how many people I could have there, if it's a 200 or if it's a 100 type facility. I've got to come into the city and walk through that.
Or work with a design firm or anybody else to utilize the other portions of our code which dictate how a property would be utilized in that fashion. So it's a commercial use being applied to a.
They can find that in the code, though, how to do that, okay.
Correct.
If certainly not the individual, a design professional can find that. That's what I'm asking, okay. All right. Any other questions from council? All right. Anyone wish to move the recommendation?
I'll make a motion to adopt a resolution approving the summary publication and a motion to adopt an ordinance amending sections 11-4-2, 11-6-3, 11-6-8, 11-7-5, and 11-7-6 of the city code.
I'll second.
Okay, and then just to confirm that that is all of the amendment sections. So
Yep.
I have a motion by Essler, second by Fresky. Roll, please.
Klimple,
Aye.
Weisenthal,
Aye.
Tyson,
Aye.
Bresky,
Aye.
Essler.
Aye.
Thank you very much. That completes 9A 50.
Thanks.
Move on to item number 10, city staff updates.
Mayor, I think that all the awesome things happening in town got mentioned already, so I can give the mic right back to you to talk about the calendar.
Great. All right. Anything from council members before I go into the community calendar? Seeing none, what happened? Somebody moved my community calendar. Here it is, I got it. So, as heard earlier this evening, Saturday, October 11th is Oktoberfest, 12 to 7 in Central Park, followed by Sunday, October 12th, 11 to 2, Fire Station 2 for the Fire Department Open House. The Port Authority meets on October 21st from 6 to 7 here in the city chambers, and our next city council meeting is October 21st, 7 to 8 p.m. also here at City Hall. And with that, if there are no other business come before council, I move to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.